So the way I look at credit scores and the credit report is it's not just a score on its own, right? It's so easy to get kind of bogged down by what is your score? What is your score? Really, what we want to understand from the credit score is that it shows what your behaviors are, right? So a lower score indicates that you have either not been paying your bills as agreed upon, so you have late payments, or you have collections, you have some delinquencies on there, you have potentially charge-offs. That's what the lower score indicates. So whenever as a lender, I look at a credit report and I see a lower credit score, I never like to say a bad credit score. You either have a lower or a higher, right? Because there are improvements and things that we can make. So whenever I see a lower credit score, that indicates to me, okay, let me review the credit history to see where did we have some hiccups? Where did we have late payments? That's where conversation starts of what happened during this time. A lot of people got hurt during the pandemic where they may have lost jobs, they may have gotten reduced income, and those are things that we can work through, right? Now,
Mhm.
on the other side of things, we have a high, let's say you have a credit score of 800. Okay, that indicates to me this person has payments that are on time every time. They don't have any collections. They are a good steward of their finances, meaning they're paying their bills as agreed upon with their creditors and their lenders, right? So whenever we have a conversation of, well, why don't I qualify for a mortgage or why don't I qualify for a certain type of loan? Well, you haven't proven to the credit bureaus that you pay your bills on time. If company one, company two, company three, if you have credit cards out with them and you haven't paid the minimum bills on time or your minimum payments on time, what is the likelihood that you're going to continue paying me on time if you already owe these people and haven't paid them, right? That's how lenders usually look at it. So throughout this process, throughout this video, we'll talk about A, what makes a good credit score? B, if you have a credit score that you want to improve, what are some tactics that you can deploy? And C, if you have a good credit score, what does that mean for you moving forward and buying a house? So let's start with one, what makes up the credit score? And there's really three things. A lot of people think about, oh, I need to have a lot of different types of credit to have a good credit score. That's not the case, not at all. We look at three things. How long have you had a credit card? I'm going to use the credit card for the easiest comprehension of what credit is, because that's usually where we all start out with, right? When we're 18 years old and we get a bunch of credit cards in the mail. So let's say you have one credit card. We want to see that you've paid it on time, every time, and you're not overusing it. And that's where the utilization ratio that a lot of people talk about comes in. So let's say, for example, you have $1,000 credit limit, and that's maxing out your card means you're spending $1,000 every single month, and you're making a minimum payment.
Mhm.
Credit utilization, the higher it is, the lower your credit score will be. Although you have $1,000 available to you in this example, you want to stay at or around $300, and you want to pay it every single month in full so that your credit score can be as high as possible. And what that does for you is that you'll qualify for better interest rates and better loan products because now you've shown the other lenders that, oh, I may not have a lot of credit, but what I do have, I know how to manage properly. So it's not about getting five different credit cards, getting a car loan, doing all these things that you don't really need to do. Just
Mhm.
maintain your finances to the best of your ability, and that's what we want to see. We don't want to see, Umair has five different credit cards that he's not paying on time. Well, that doesn't help
Yeah.
anybody, right?
Yeah.
We want to see, you know, you have one credit card, that's okay. How are you using it? Are you
Mhm.
using it just for the necessities? Are you using it just for gas, groceries, whatever your daily expenses are? And then on the flip side, whatever you're using, are you paying off in full? If you're
Mhm.
paying the minimum payment, that's okay. At least your minimum payment is getting met and
Mhm.
you're not tarnishing your credit.
Okay.
But what we want to see is that you're paying it in full, meaning you're not overspending based on the money that you have available to you. We don't want to
And
see balances being carried over. I'll give you my personal example. When I was 18, I got my first credit card, and these are the same rules that I followed myself. I used $300 roughly.
mhm,
I was living with my parents at the time, and I paid it off in full every single month. And I had a credit score that was over 700, right? And in today's day, 700 or above, you're looking good to be able to
yeah.
qualify for a mortgage. So there's a give and take, right?
Mhm,
Eventually, when you look at getting a car loan, getting credit cards, getting revolving debt, why are you getting it, right? So the reason for me at this point in my life, I have rental real estate, I have other businesses that I'm working on. So
mhm,
liquidity to me is very important, meaning saving my money while leveraging the open credit cards and open lines of credits that I may have available. That doesn't mean that I'm carrying balances. I still pay everything off at the end of the month, at the end of the statement cycle. But understanding how leverage works is important. And while you're starting out, we don't want to over leverage yourself because that's a very dangerous game. If you're not used to paying on your debts yet, if you're not used to having a credit limit or having a credit card, start small. Use what you can. Don't overspend. Don't
mhm.
don't over leverage yourself because credit card interest rates, while people are scared of 8% interest rates on the mortgage side, credit card rates are near 30%,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to get into that habit
Mhm,
of having a revolving debt.
yeah.
Yeah, it would. So we have to see that the business has been paying for the past 12 months because you are a personal guarantor, right? So if your business can't pay the bills and we don't see a history of the business paying those bills for the at least the past 12 months, we have to count that against you as well.
Okay.
Which
Okay.
actually really good question because that segues me really nicely into the more debt you have, car loan, credit card, student loan, etc. That impacts your debt to income ratio, right? That's your affordability. So while people might think about I should have a few different types of credit so that I can have a credit mix that people think about, that's not as important as keeping your minimum obligations as low as you can, right? Because the way the mortgage industry as a whole, the way we underwrite loans is based on your monthly affordability. So let's say if you're getting $10,000 in income per month, gross income, if the rule of thumb is that you can only qualify for 45% of that being your total liabilities, that means $4,500 of that 10,000 can go towards any existing debt that you have right now, plus whatever the mortgage payment is going to be. Now, the more existing debt you have, the less your mortgage payment can be, right? And if you want to afford a certain type of lifestyle and certain type of a house, that means we have to really carefully manage your other what I like to call consumer liabilities, right? Because a nice car, well, yes, you can have a BMW, it's going to get you the same place as my Honda Accord is going to get
Yeah.
get me, right? While you can have a really nice purse that you might buy for $1,500, my $20 wallet holds the same amount of credit cards, right? So you have to really manage your expenses
Mhm,
carefully so that you can maximize your budget for your living. Because
mhm.
here's the thing, real estate on average appreciates at a 4% rate. Okay. Meaning the $1,000 house that you buy today might be worth 104,000 next year, 4% increase. Okay. What does it cost to get that $100,000 house? There's down payment involved, right? Usually 5% down payment. If you're a first time home buyer, you might be able to get into the house with no money out of pocket. So the acquisition cost might be zero to, let's say, $5,000. Well, that $5,000 at a 5% rate is not going to match the $4,000 in appreciation ever, right?
Yeah.
So using real estate as a vehicle of appreciating as an appreciating asset is going to put you in a better position as compared to buying that BMW, which is going to
Mhm.
depreciate in value over time,
Yeah.
right? The forty thousand
Great.
dollar car today is going to be worth 10,000, whereas the $100,000 house today is going to be worth 104,000, and then so on.
Yeah.
So that's the thought process of
Yeah.
not only managing your expenses and your credit score, but also creating generational wealth over time.
Right.
Debt to income ratio, it's a division calculation. Okay. Think of it this way. You have current liabilities that are on your credit report plus expected mortgage payment divided by your gross monthly income equals out to whatever your debt to income ratio will be. Now, rule of thumb is 45% of your gross income is the maximum allowed debts overall. So $4,500 in that $10,000 example that I gave earlier is the maximum 45% debt to income ratio that you can qualify for. Okay. Now let's break it down a little bit. You're a first time home buyer, you have your first job making $50,000 to $60,000 a year, right? That's the current market for a first time home buyer, or excuse me, for an entry level job. If we look at it from a perspective of you're making $5,000 a month, well, now we know that you can't really go over around $2,300 a month in expenses. Well, let's say you have a $400 car loan and you have student loans because your entry level job, you just got out of college, your student loans might be another $200, right? So let's say in that case, you just sacrificed of that 23-ish $100 monthly budget for your house. What did I say? $400 for a car, $200 for your student loans. There goes $600 right there of that 2,300. Now the affordability of your house is smaller, right? That's how debt to income ratio works. Sure. So let's start with the easier one. If you don't have credit, that's the best place to be in, because what we can use is called non-traditional trade lines, which means any bill that you're paying on a monthly basis is considered a trade line in our world. Okay. So let's take Netflix, for example. It's a monthly bill. It's the same and it's recurring. We want to see that you paid it on time every time. And we want to see a minimum of 3 trade lines to be able to qualify with that. That is a way to do it. Now, if you don't qualify with non-traditional trade lines because this is a portfolio program that we have, and maybe the debt to income ratio is a little too tight with that, what you can do is look at either becoming an authorized user on a parent's credit card that's been a good steward of their credit, or you can go and apply for a secured credit card or a student credit card. There are different types out there. Do your own research on that. You don't want to overspend. And the way that secured credit cards work is that you're going to put in a deposit. Okay. So let's say you put in a $500 deposit and now that's your credit limit. For 6 months to a year, you're going to use that the same way as you would a regular credit card. Keep your utilization ratio low, pay it on time every time. And within a year, or sometime sooner, depending on how you use your card, you'll graduate to a regular adult card, let's call it. You'll get your deposit of the $500 refunded to you, minus whatever the fees were for using the card itself. Usually it's like $3, $5 per month. It's not anything too crazy. Sometimes it's free. Just, again, do your own research on that, whoever you want to use. But that's a really good way to improve your credit score very quickly. So for somebody that's just getting into the world of, hey, I'm thinking about moving, I want to buy my own house, start sooner than later, right? Usually takes about a year to build up a solid credit score from nothing. Now, on the flip side, someone that's overutilizing their credit score or their credit, I like the snowball method personally, because we like to, as humans, we like to feel like, oh man, I did something, right? And every win that you get is a bigger motivation for you to keep doing it over and over. So let's say you have 5 different credit cards, they're all maxed out. I like to start with the highest interest rate credit card and apply everything that you possibly can while maintaining minimum payments on the other ones. Once you pay off one, now you have a bigger lump that you can apply to the next one. Snowball it. Because the way that the credit utilization is seen by the credit bureaus and ourselves is we don't take card by card. We take as a whole, right? So if in the entirety of your credit balances or your credit limits, if the overall credit limit is $10,000, That's how we see it. We don't see 1,000, 2,500, 3,000. We don't look at it that way. We just look at the big picture.
Mhm.
So once you start snowballing that over and over and over, you're going to wipe it out a lot quicker because you have that motivation behind you saying, yes, I paid that thing off, on to the next one. And you'll save a lot more on interest too, because you're starting with the highest interest bearing
Right.
credit card. Sure. So if you're someone that is looking at opening a new card, question one, why? Why do you want a new card? If the answer is, hey, it's giving me some rewards, if it's so, I'll give you my example again. I went from a free credit card with PNC with a crazy credit limit to I now have an American Express, which had from a free card to a paid card. Why would I do that? That's silly, right? It's kind of counterintuitive. Well, the benefits of the American Express were good enough that it's offsetting the expense of it, and because I pay off my bills in their entirety every month anyway, I don't care about the interest rate, right? Because you only pay interest on your credit cards that you carry over. So, one, why do you need the card? And if you say yes, this is the reason, whatever the reason is, if it's good enough for you to get it, great. How does that impact your credit score? Very likely it will go down. For a short period of time, it will go down because you have a new inquiry and a new credit line that opened up. Now, short term, what does that mean? It could be 10 days, it could be 30 days. It's not a end all be all. Okay. It's okay to open a new card. Just be very careful with it. And a lot of times, if you have a lower credit score, don't open a new card. If you have a strong credit score, meaning you've shown the credit bureaus that you're able to maintain multiple credit lines, or even if it's just one line, you've shown that you've been able to maintain it perfectly. Great, go ahead and open it. In that scenario, you may not have any kind of a negative impact, and that's fantastic. Now, on the flip side, if you have a lot of credit already, don't open a new card. That's it. Just don't even open it. Don't close it either, though, because now once you've started paying off your credit cards, your impulse is going to be, okay, I don't want to get into the same situation again. I want to close it out. Don't do that, because when you take that credit line off of your credit report, you're deleting off that history. So all this work that you just did, you're erasing it, which is going to then again take you the wrong way. Again, it's a short-term impact, right? You're only taking this credit line off, your credit line off with the credit history. It's going to have a short-term impact because it's getting deleted. Long-term, it's going to be okay. But if you're in the position of keeping it open and just put it to the side, do that. That's always the better option. It will. The missed payment does go away because the credit history itself is going away as well. But the other side of the thing is, because that credit line overall is going away, your credit score is still going to be negatively impacted for the short term. Sometimes a little bit more than normal because of that missed payment. Because it's counterintuitive, but what it could be looked at, and this is a black box situation, right? Credit bureaus have their own algorithms. I don't know them. Sometimes it's just a good guesstimate. A lot of times what it could be looked at is, well, you couldn't maintain it, so you closed it out. Now I'm going to ding you for it. Right? So the best case scenario, if you have a credit card, maintain it. That's it. Pay it in full every month. That way you never get in trouble. And that goes with every single other bill that you have. Pay your bills as agreed upon, and you'll never get in trouble. So as far as the score goes, the best calculator is your loan officer, right? Because we pull what's called a tri-merge credit report directly from the bureaus. We see your credit history, your employment history, late payments, on-time payments, closed accounts. We see everything with that tri-merge credit report. Now, as a consumer, if you're not ready to go to that level yet, what you should be doing once a year, every year, you are eligible to pull a free credit report. It's not going to have your scores on there, but it will show you your credit history. Now, what this shows you is, are there inaccuracies? One, are there late payments there where there shouldn't be late payments? Two, now you have this history that you can say, hey, bank ABC said that I was late on July 1st. I was never late. If you have the documentation to show it, now you can go to this bank and say, hey, there's an incorrect information. Mistakes happen. Computers are only as good as the people that program them, right? So stuff happens, take it to the bank, they'll fix it, and your credit score will get fixed as well. What I like to do, everyone I'm sure has their PNC apps, their Chase mobile app, their American Express app, Credit Karma, whatever. These are really good apps to show the trend of your credit score. The score itself is always going to be different because there's so many different algorithms out there. The trend of your credit score is what you want to look out for when you're using these free apps. Because if you start seeing your score improving or getting damaged for whatever reason, that's an indicator of you're doing something good or bad, right? So if you start seeing your score starting to improve, that means you're paying stuff off. You're lowering your credit utilization. It may just be that your credit is more seasoned now, right? So I think you asked a little bit earlier, if your credit is newer, what do? Well, sometimes you can't control everything. It's just time, right? So as your credit becomes more seasoned,
Right.
the stronger your score will be. Sometimes it's just that. So you want to focus on the trend with these free apps, and you want to pull your free credit report from mycreditreport.com, or I believe it's myfreecreditreport.com. Sure. So step number one, you want to review the credit report. Okay. If you have collections, charge-offs, whatever the derogatory trade lines are, you want to call those creditors or collection companies, and you can either settle, right? So if you owe $100 and you call them and they say, we'll settle the account and call it fair if you pay us $50, great, do that. Because that saves you money, right? Now, if let's say you don't have any credit card that you owe, or excuse me, any collections that you owe, and what you do have are some late payments. Well, we can't really do anything about that, right? Time has already passed. We can only repair for the future. Some things that I like to do is one, make sure that your utilization ratio is as low as possible, meaning use that snowball method, pay down as much of your revolving debt as possible, so that what you can now do is go to the Equifax or Experian or TransUnion and see what tools they have to improve your score just directly through them. And what I really like to use is Experian Boost. If you haven't heard of it, the way that it works, it's a product that Experian, the credit bureau itself, created. The way it works is it scans through your bank statements. You'll provide the credentials and you'll link the bank account that you have to the Experian app. It scans through the bank statements and it will review what monthly payments that you're paying. So whether you're paying your utility bill, whether you're paying your cell phone bill, whatever is a recurring payment every single month, it will review that and give you credit for it, right? So that's very important, because if you have nothing that you can do at least that. And a lot of times I've seen credit scores go up by 40 points, 50 points, 60 points. It's very possible. Yeah, thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.